Level 1. The offer: you're 23 years old and you're broke. Not the kind of broke where you skip lunch. The kind where your landlord stops answering your calls because he knows you don't have it. You've been working construction for 8 months. Cash jobs under the table. Your back hurts and your bank account has $62 in it. You're in a bar on a Tuesday night. Cheap beer. The kind of place where nobody asks your name. There's a guy 2 stools down. Mid-40s, quiet, drinks whiskey neat. You've seen him here before. He's always alone, always watching. Tonight he slides over. Doesn't ask if the seat's taken, just sits. He doesn't say much at first, asks what you do. You tell him construction. He nods like he already knew. Then he asks a different question. You ever think about making real money? You laugh. Of course you have. Everyone has. He doesn't laugh. He just looks at you. Then he says something you'll remember for the rest of your life. I know someone who pays for problem solving. Different kind of problems. The kind most people don't have the stomach for. You know what he's talking about. You don't say it out loud, but you know. He slides a phone number across the bar. Just 10 digits on a torn piece of receipt paper. You call that number, you meet someone. You don't like what they say, you walk away. No pressure. But if you're tired of being broke and you're not afraid of getting your hands dirty, you call. He finishes his drink, pays his tab, leaves. You sit there for another hour staring at that piece of paper. You tell yourself you're not going to call. You tell yourself this is insane. You tell yourself a lot of things. 3 days later, you're still broke. The number is still in your wallet. You call Level 2, the interview. The voice on the phone doesn't give you a name, just an address and a time. 11 p.m., a warehouse district on the east side. You almost don't go. You sit in your car outside for 20 minutes, trying to decide if this is the dumbest thing you've ever done. You go inside. There's a man waiting. Not the guy from the bar. Someone else. Older. Calm. He doesn't shake your hand. Doesn't introduce himself. Just looks at you like he's deciding something. You ever been arrested? You say no. He asks about your family. You tell him you don't talk to them anymore. Father's been gone since you were 12. Mother remarried, moved to another state. No siblings, no girlfriend, no close friends. He nods. That's good, he says. People with ties don't last. Then he asks you a question you weren't ready for. You ever hurt someone? You hesitate. Yeah, once. High school. A fight that went too far. Kid ended up in the hospital. You weren't charged. His family didn't press it. But you remember the sound his head made when it hit the pavement? The man doesn't react. Just writes something down. Then he asks the real question. Could you kill someone if you had to? You don't answer right away, because you don't know. You've thought about it in some abstract way like everyone does. But actually doing it? That's different. He doesn't wait for your answer. He tells you to come back in a week. Same place, same time. If you show up, there's a job. If you don't, you never hear from him again. You leave. You don't sleep that night, or the next. You think about not going back. You think about it every single day. You show up. Level 3, the first job. They don't hand you a gun and send you out. That's not how it works. The first job isn't even yours. You're just watching. There's another guy, older, been doing this for years. They call him Marco. You don't know if that's his real name. You don't ask. He doesn't talk much, just tells you to pay attention. You spend 3 days watching a man. Marco gives you the address, the schedule, the routine. The target's name is Richard, late 50s. Runs a mid-level drug operation out of a laundromat. He's not a kingpin, just a guy who pissed off someone with enough money to make him disappear. You sit in a car across the street. You watch Richard get coffee every morning at the same place. 7:15 a.m., black coffee, no sugar. He reads the paper for 20 minutes. Then he goes to the laundromat. Marco tells you to notice everything. The way Richard checks over his shoulder, the car he drives. The fact that he never parks in the same spot twice. The guy's careful, Marco says, but not careful enough. On the 4th night, it happens. Richard leaves the laundromat at 11 p.m. It's raining. The street's empty. Marco's already there, parked 2 blocks down. You're in the passenger seat. Your hands are sweating. Richard gets in his car, starts the engine. Marco moves, pulls up alongside him at the red light. Window down. Richard doesn't even see it coming. 2 shots. Suppressed. Sounds like someone coughing. Richard slumps forward. The light turns green. Marco drives away. Calm. Like nothing happened. You're still holding your breath. He doesn't say anything for 10 minutes. Then, without looking at you, he says, "Next time it's you." You don't go home that night. You sit in your car in a parking lot until the sun comes up. You think about leaving town. You think about a lot of things. You don't leave. Level 4. You're first. The second job is yours. They give you a file, a photo, a name. David Huang, 32. Works in finance. Embezzled money from the wrong people. Your job is simple. Make him disappear. Make it look like a robbery. They give you a gun. A Glock 19. Untraceable. You've shot guns before. Hunting with your uncle when you were a kid. This is different. You spend a week following David. You learn his routine. Gym at 6 a.m., office by 8, lunch at the same sushi place every Tuesday. He lives alone. 4th floor apartment. No doorman. No security cameras in the stairwell. You don't sleep much that week. You keep thinking about backing out. But then you think about the money. $20,000. Cash. More than you've ever had at one time. You think about Marco's face when he pulled the trigger. No hesitation. No emotion. Just a job. The night comes. You're standing outside David's apartment building at 1 a.m. You've been over the plan 100 times. Get in. Get it done. Get out. 3 minutes. You pick the lock. Marco taught you how. You're inside. The apartment is quiet. Dark. You can hear the hum of the refrigerator. Your heartbeat is so loud you're sure someone can hear it. David's in the bedroom, asleep. You stand in the doorway for 30 seconds, just watching. He has no idea. In 30 seconds, his life is going to end, and he doesn't even know it's coming. You raise the gun. Your hand is shaking. You've never been more terrified in your life. You think about leaving. You think about everything. You pull the trigger. The sound is louder than you expected, even with the suppressor. David's body jerks once, then goes still. You stand there frozen. You just killed a man. You don't remember leaving the apartment. You don't remember the drive home. You just remember sitting on your bathroom floor at 4 a.m. staring at your hands. The money shows up 2 days later. $20,000 in cash, left in a storage locker. You don't feel relieved. You don't feel anything. You thought killing someone would change you immediately. It doesn't. The change happens slowly. So slowly you don't even notice until it's already done. Level 5. The professional. 6 months later, you've done it 9 more times. It gets easier. That's the part nobody tells you. The first one nearly broke you. The second one was hard. By the 5th, it's just mechanics. By the 10th, you stop thinking about their names. You're making real money now. $30,000 a job, sometimes 40 if it's complicated. You have an apartment that doesn't smell like mold. You have a car that starts every time. You have a savings account. You also have insomnia and paranoia and a relationship with a woman who thinks you work in private security consulting. She doesn't ask too many questions. You don't volunteer answers. The jobs come through a handler now. You've never met him in person. Just a voice on an encrypted app. He sends you files. You send confirmation when it's done. Clean. Professional. No mistakes. You've learned things. How to make a death look like an accident. How to disappear in a crowd. How to scrub a crime scene. How to live with a secret that would put you in prison for the rest of your life. You've also learned who gets killed and why. It's not random. It's business. Someone didn't pay. Someone talked to the wrong people. Someone knew too much. The targets aren't innocent, but that doesn't mean they deserve what happens to them. You tell yourself it doesn't matter. You tell yourself they made their choices just like you made yours. You don't believe it, but you tell yourself anyway. Then one night, the job is different. The file comes through. The target is a woman, late 20s, school teacher, no criminal record. The notes say she witnessed something she shouldn't have. That's it. Wrong place, wrong time. You stare at the file for 2 hours. This isn't a drug dealer or a corrupt financier. This is someone who just happened to see something. You think about saying no. You've never said no before, but you think about it. Then you think about what happens to people who say no in this line of work. You think about Marco. You haven't seen him in 4 months. Nobody has. You take the job. Afterwards, you don't sleep for 3 days. Level 6. The cost. It's been 2 years now. You've stopped counting the jobs. Somewhere past 30, maybe 40. You don't keep track anymore. You have money. More than you ever thought you'd have. A nice apartment, a car, investment accounts under different names. You could stop, retire, disappear somewhere warm. You don't, because stopping means becoming a liability. And liabilities don't retire, they disappear. You don't have friends anymore. The few people you knew from before don't recognize the person you've become. You're colder now, distant. You can't have a normal conversation without calculating exits and threats. The woman you were seeing left 6 months ago, said you were emotionally unavailable. She has no idea how right she was. You live alone. You don't go out unless you have to. You don't trust anyone. Every car that follows you for more than 2 turns is a potential tail. Every stranger who makes eye contact is a potential threat. You sleep with a gun under your pillow. You have go bags in 3 different locations. You have fake IDs, cash, and a plan for 6 different countries. You are very good at what you do. You are also completely alone. Sometimes you think about the person you were at 23. Broke, desperate, sitting in that bar. You wonder what you would tell him if you could go back. Would you warn him? Would you tell him not to make the call? Probably not, because that kid wouldn't have listened anyway. He was too desperate, too hungry, too stupid to understand that some doors, once you walk through them, don't have handles on the other side. You are not a monster. You're not some cold-blooded psychopath from a movie. You're just someone who made a choice and then kept making it until one day you realized you couldn't remember who you were before. The job comes through tonight. Another file, another name, another 24 hours of planning. You open the file, you read the details, you start the process. Because this is what you are now. This is the life you chose, and the only way out is the same way everyone else gets out. You just hope when your time comes, it's quick, professional. The way you've always done it for everyone else, that's the only respect left in this world. A clean death, you close the file, you check your weapon, you go to work, because that's what you do. It's all you do now. It's all you are. And somewhere in a bar across town, there's probably another 23-year-old kid, broke, desperate, about to get an offer that will change his life. You hope he says no, but you know he won't.